Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Latin conditions, and in English those are subordinate clause, main clause type of sentences denoted by if then, and in Latin they'll be indicated, they'll normally, a clause will be set off by si or nisi, meaning if or unless or if not, and then there will be a main clause. So there's two types of general verb tenses that denote two types of conditions. There's we use indicative verb tenses for talking about real conditions or things that are likely to happen, and we use subjunctive verb tenses to talk about unlikely conditions or false conditions. So, Derek, if you want to talk about the first two.
Okay, so the first type of condition we're going to talk about is the simple fact present construction of a condition, which uses the present indicative verb tense. So in this example, si id facit, prudens est, and this would be translated as if he is doing this, which it is quite possible that he is wise. So the main clause is dependent on the subordinate clause condition, the condition of the subordinate clause. So moving on to the subjunctive version of this, which is called the contrary to fact present, and even though it's the present version of this type of conditional sentence, it uses the imperfect form of subjunctive. So let's, for an example, si id facieret, prudens esset. As you can see here, the imperfect subjunctive is used in this verb, and this is translated as if he were doing it, which he is not at this current time doing it, he would be wise, but in fact he is not. So once again, the main clause, what is going on in the main clause is dependent on the condition of the subordinate clause. And once again, the contrary fact present uses the imperfect subjunctive, not the present subjunctive. Moving on, we're going to move on to the simple fact past construction of a condition, which uses imperfect or perfect indicative for verb tense. An example of this would be si id facit, prudens fuit. As you can see, perfect verb tense here and here, and this is translated as if he did this, he was wise. So this is the same, very similar to the present indicative or simple fact present, but it's simple fact past, something that happened in the past.
Continuing on that, so we're going to talk about the unlikely or the contrary to fact past. These are things that didn't actually happen. So we use the pluperfect subjunctive for this case, denoted by the isset. That'll be apparent when you're reading Latin. So si id fecissent, prudens fuisset. If he had done this, he would have been wise. And then moving on to the future. So for the future indicative, we use the future indicative tense. And they're called future more vivids. And si id faciet, prudens erit. If he does this, he will be wise. So the only translation help really here is that we translate this as not if he will do this, we translate it as if he does this now. So you're translating this future indicative as a present, and then this part as the future part. So he will be wise. So moving on to the unlikely version of this, we have what's called as the should, would, or future less vivid, and we use the present subjunctive. So future indicative is future more vivid, but present subjunctive is the future less vivid. So si id feciat, prudens sit. If he should do it, he would be wise. So that's why we call them should, would clauses, because that'll help you with your translation. So just to run through, again, in total, we have a present indicative verb, translated as a present indicative verb in the if-then clauses. Imperfect, perfect, same thing. Translate the verbs as imperfect or perfects. If you see a future indicative, translate the subordinate clause in the present and the main clause in the future. And then the biggest translation things, the things you're going to need to study the most are the subjunctive uses. Imperfect subjunctive is contrary to fact present. So if he were doing it, he would be wise. Pluperfect denotes contrary to fact past, and you can translate them as pluperfects. And then present subjunctive goes with the should, would clauses. So good luck, and hopefully this helped you out a little bit.